Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed delegates and honored guests, as we gather in this assembly, we are not just representatives of our respective nations, but ambassadors of hope, dialogue, and collaboration. GSMUN began over 10 years ago as an in-school MUN that evolved into a cherished yearly event for students.
But this time, we are thrilled to announce that other schools have partaken in our joy and enthusiasm for this dynamic MUN.
We will now have a flag presentation by the 7th graders of our school. Starting off are India and Russia. Next, we have Japan and USA. Followed by Poland and Germany. After which come Brazil and Spain. Followed by the United Kingdom and Argentina. Next, we have Australia and China. Followed by Sweden and UAE.
Next up, we have Italy and South Korea. Next, we have Turkey and Singapore. Followed by Saudi Arabia and Mexico. Coming up, we have Colombia and Vietnam. Next, we have Iran and South Africa. Next up, we have Thailand and Egypt. Followed by France and Nigeria. Our last two flags are the Netherlands and the Philippines.
Could we have another round of applause for our 7th graders?
I would now like to invite Ridan Dattani, our Deputy Secretary General, to address the gathering.
What a beautiful day it is. I can see shining faces, well dressed and buckled up for the adventure that entails. I can see polished black leather shoes, eye-catchy watches in the hands of few, great lighting and equipment right here in this glamorous auditorium. But do you know that there is a story behind every single one of these? And this story continues to impact our present and thus inevitably our future. A very cheerful morning to our President, Mr. Jacob Thomas, Senior Vice President, Student and Staff Welfare, Mr. Sarah Jacob, our esteemed Chief Guest, Dr. Johan Christopher, members of the Academic Council, teachers, delegates, and our honored guests from other schools. In our globalized world, the story behind that one black leather shoe starts from Guangdong in China. China accounts for 20% of global leather production and exports of leather worth more than $25 billion. Now this comes at the cost of animal abuse and pressures on the ecosystem, as with the advent of biotechnology, we have developed ways to accelerate animal production in order to extract more commodities like wool, fur, and exotic leather from reptiles. Now, what if I told you that by protesting against such animal abuses, you could not only protect our environment, but you could also stop a war? Yes, Chinese vessels are heavily funded to take illegitimate control of shoals filled with minerals at the South China Sea. Moreover, it has violated international law and invaded Philippines' maritime territories. And as you may have guessed, the funds flow in from China's various businesses, like the leather industry. My statements may sound biased, but if you believe you can persuade, negotiate, and change the perception about China, then we welcome you to GSMUN 2024, when you can achieve diplomatic goals in our committee, ASEAN, the Association of Southeast Asian Nations. We have believed in the philosophy that MUN events are imperative for a student's holistic development. Such platforms act as a springboard for developing negotiation skills. And trust me, it's not a cakewalk to persuade people to your beliefs, whilst balancing the advantages both will receive. Communication is an inherent part of our social lives. But how often do we communicate clearly what we want? Why is it that paralingual qualities like body language, voice modulation, and communication play pivotal roles in our lives, especially in the lives of high school students, as we aim to get into prestigious Ivy League and universities? Well, look around. We constantly communicate a message, comment, or idea, and every human being wants his or her point of view to be upheld. But that isn't going to happen until you learn the art of negotiation and persuasion. Clarity and confidence in your communication skills will surely help you take the bull by the horns. This year is particularly significant as the GSIS community, through the dedicated efforts of the GSMUN Secretariat and organizing students, is proud to host an inter-school Model United Nations for the first time. We are delighted to welcome our esteemed guests from prestigious institutions like the Bishop Cotton School from Bangalore and Army Public School, Wellington. On behalf of the entire GSIS fraternity, I extend a warm welcome to each one of you. Let's give a huge round of applause to them. Let creative ideas flow. Let this MUN be one of the best in Good Shepherd's history. Let us overcome challenges, and most importantly, let us all have fun while lots of learning takes place. Signing off, Deputy Secretary General, GSMUN 2024.
Thank you, Ridan. I now invite our Secretary General, Kaina Gulia, to declare the ceremony open.
I, Kaina Gulia, the Secretary General for GSMUN 2024, declare this MUN open.
Thank you, Kaina. We would now like to introduce to you our highly driven co-chairs who have been working tirelessly to bring this MUN to life.
Starting off is the co-chair of the Historic Crisis Committee, Nanjappa Bopana.
Honorable delegates, esteemed members of the Secretariat, and distinguished guests. I, Nanjappa Bopana, am honored to be the co-chair of the Historic Crisis Committee for this year's GSMUN, with the committee being headed by Dhruva Umachagi. The Historic Crisis Committee is a unique addition to this year's GSMUN, with it being the only fictional and crisis-based committee among the others. It usually focuses on a decisive turning point in a past conflict, with the chair delivering updates after which the delegates shape the way the committee progresses and concludes, making this a truly distinct and unique committee. This year, HCC will focus on the German invasion of Russia in World War II, with the freeze date being 17 July 1942, which marked the beginning of one of the most vicious battles in the German invasion of Russia, the Battle of Stalingrad. The German invasion of Russia, known as Operation Barbarossa, began on June 22, 1941, and was a pivotal moment in World War II. Aimed at acquiring territory and destroying communism, the invasion initially achieved rapid successes. However, it ultimately failed due to the harsh Russian winter and the resilience of Soviet forces. The failure not only stalled the German advance, but also marked the start of a grueling conflict on the Eastern Front, leading to significant Soviet counteroffensives that contributed to Nazi Germany's eventual defeat. The invasion had devastating human costs and reshaped the war's trajectory and global history. As we embark on this year's transformative GSMUN, I urge each delegate to embrace the spirit of collaboration and open dialogue that defines our gathering. This is a unique opportunity to engage in meaningful discussions and passionate debates on pressing global issues. Remember, the essence of MUN lies not just in representing your assigned country, but in building bridges across cultures and ideologies. Together, let's create an atmosphere where every voice is heard, every argument is considered, and every delegate leaves enriched by the experience. I would like to leave you all with a quote by Alistair Campbell, the prominent British author and journalist. I quote, "Don't accept that you are in crisis just because everyone says you are." Thank you.
Thank you, Nanjappa. Now, it's my pleasure to introduce the co-chair of the World Health Organization, who has a truly infectious passion for MUNs, 𝗔𝗕𝗓𝗄𝗧.
Good morning to one and all present here. The World Health Organization, also known as WHO, is a specialized agency of the UN established on 7th April 1948. Its aims were to promote global health, ensure healthy security, and serve the vulnerable. This year, WHO will be chaired by Shreyansh Audi and me, the co-chair, 𝗔𝗕𝗓𝗄𝗧. The agenda for WHO will focus on strategies for rehabilitating and recovering health systems in conflict-affected regions with a special focus on the Gaza Strip. Now I know what you all might be thinking. Rehabilitation, it sounds like a fancy word for let's fix what's broken. And yes, there's a lot to fix. Imagine trying to recover from a very bad haircut while simultaneously dodging flying scissors. That is what it's like to rehabilitate health recovery systems in conflict zones. The challenges are immense, but so are the opportunities for creativity and innovation. Health conditions in conflict zones Health conditions in conflict affected zones frequently deteriorate. The violence and instability lead to urgent health demands because they might cause injuries, infectious diseases, and a shortage of basic healthcare services. As I draw my remarks to a close, I want to emphasize on the vital importance of engaging in discussions that are both passionate, productive, and fruitful. Our goal should not only be to strive together towards a constructive resolution, this not only means identifying the problems we face, but also collaborating on actionable strategies that can lead to meaningful outcomes. Thank you and all the best.
Thank you, Dhiren. Following his brilliant insights, we have Rahul Jadav, offering his expertise in the Special Political and Decolonization Committee.
Good morning, respected teachers, students, and esteemed delegates. It is a privilege to stand before you as we embark on a journey of diplomacy and discovery. I am Aditi Jhindel and I'll be co-chairing the Special Political and Decolonization Committee SPECPOL. Our agenda is assessing the possibilities for the repatriation of historical artifacts from museums and cultural institutions to their countries of origin. This issue is not only about objects but of identity, heritage, and justice. As we delve into this discussion, we must recognize that these artifacts are more than mere relics. They are symbols of historical significance for many nations, for example, the Kohinoor. Throughout our debates, we will discuss the various perspectives on this issue. We will critically examine the historical background of the artifacts, the rationale behind the call of the procedure, and the challenges confronting the institutions that house them. We will do this through conversations that conducted with respect across different opinions, aiming to find a solution that is respectful of cultural heritage. As we discuss in the agenda, we haven't forgotten that Model United Nations is more than just debate. It is the opportunity to cultivate your communication style and test your critical thinking abilities. We will not only sharpen our reasoning abilities, but also learn to appreciate and support each other. This process will not only help us in healthy debates, but for our future endeavors in leadership. In conclusion, let us embrace this opportunity to learn from one another. Let us approach our discussions with open minds and a spirit of collaborations. I hope everyone enjoys their time in SpecPol and look forward to having healthy and fun debate sessions. Thank you and have a good day ahead.
Thank you, Satej. Coming up next is the co-chair of the United Nations Security Council, Aditi Jhindel.
Good morning to one and all present here. My name is Advika and I am privileged to co-chair UNSC with my chair Karan. As we gather here today, we stand at a critical juncture in our global history where the decisions we make either pave the way for peace or lead us down a path of further conflict. I would like to take a moment to acknowledge the significance of our committee, the United Nations Security Council. As one of the 6 principal organs of the United Nations, the UNSC is charged with maintaining international peace and security. It possesses unique powers, including the ability to impose sanctions, authorize military action, and establish peacekeeping operations. Our discussions here are not merely academic, they have real-world implications that affect millions across the globe. Today, we will delve into the agenda of UNSC for this year, evaluating the restriction of military alliances as a potential strategy for mitigating future conflicts and wars. This topic is particularly relevant in light of recent geopolitical tensions and have highlighted the fragility of peace in various regions. The notion of military alliances has been both a shield and a sword, providing security for some while escalating tensions for others. In our discussion, we will explore various perspectives on this issue, including the historical context of military alliances and their impact on global conflicts, the potential benefits of prohibiting such alliances in fostering diplomatic relations, the challenges and feasibility of implementing such prohibitions. As delegates, you're expected to engage thoughtfully and respectfully in our discussions, contribute actively to debate, providing insights backed by research and facts. Work collaboratively with fellow delegates to explore solutions that promote peace and security while considering diverse viewpoints. Maintain decorum during discussion. Along with this, the delegates are also expected to be well versed with the various mandates, expected to be innovative and creative with their speeches, papers, etc. Last but not the least, let us approach this agenda with open minds and a commitment to find pathways towards lasting peace. Together, we have the power to influence not only our nation, but also the future of global relations. Thank you.
Thank you, Advika. Next in sequence, we have the co-chair of the United Nations Environment Programme, Kos Milan Patel.
Good morning, esteemed guests, faculty, and fellow students. I, Kush, am a deputy chair for the UNEP committee. This year, the United Nations Environment Programme was introduced specifically for younger students, as we found out that there are many students who have not participated in NMUNs. The aim of this committee is to not only solve global issues, but also make it easier for the students to learn and follow the procedures of NMUN. To start off, UNEP was established in 1972 after the first UN conference held in Stockholm, Sweden. The committee's primary role is to solve environmental issues, coordinate efforts among nations, tackle environmental problems, and promote sustainable development. Over the years, UNEP has played a crucial role in addressing issues such as climate change, biodiversity loss, and pollution. This year, the committee will focus on two main agendas. The first agenda is discussing the policies and strategies to address pollution generated by the fast fashion industry. The second agenda is analyzing the environmental impacts of electric vehicles and promoting solutions for green transportation. Fast fashion refers to a business model in the clothing industry that emphasizes the quick production of inexpensive garments. Brands like Zara and H&M produce trendy styles, often at a new pace that leads to environmental issues. It is responsible for about 10% of global carbon emissions, which is more than all international flights and shipping combined. Moreover, it generates approximately 92 million tons of waste, which is very eye-catching. Moving on to the second agenda. Electric vehicles, also known as EVs, are also in huge trend right now. They are often promoted as a cleaner alternative to conventional vehicles. However, because of their zero emissions while driving, we must consider that their environmental impacts go far beyond their operation. We also must consider where the energy is coming from, as we may be simply shifting pollution rather than eliminating it entirely. The discussions on these two topics are crucial for understanding the challenges that we face in creating a sustainable future. We hope to not only solve these issues, but also analyze their impacts on our environment, our society, and also on the economy. Finally, our aim is to come up with solutions that benefit both the people and the planet. I'm looking forward to heated debates and active participation from all members of this committee. Thank you and have a great day ahead.
Thank you, Kush. Up next is the representative of Trilateral, 𝗔𝗕𝗢𝗨𝗧.
Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed delegates, welcome to the opening ceremony of GSMUN. Let me introduce the Trilateral Summit. This committee is gathered here to discuss a pressing problem that has shaped the geopolitical landscape of the Middle East and has profound implications on the lives of millions of people. The committee will be discussing the agenda, assessing the geopolitical involvement of Iran and Saudi Arabia in the Yemeni civil war and impact on the Yemeni population in relation to the Houthi movement. The Trilateral Summit serves as a crucial platform for dialogue among the three pivotal nations, Yemen, Iran, and Saudi Arabia. This committee aims to foster understanding, collaboration in addressing the complex dynamics of regional conflicts. The Yemeni civil war, which erupted in 2014, has seen a devastating humanitarian crisis unfold, exacerbated by external influences from both Saudi and Iran. As we delve into our agenda for the next 3 days, we must critically assess how these nations' geopolitical ambitions have affected the Yemeni population and the Houthi movement. As we embark on this journey together in a committee, let us focus on effective dialogue that prioritizes the well-being of the Yemeni people. It is imperative that we explore avenues for peace that not only addresses the immediate concerns of this conflict, but also lay the groundwork for long-term stability in Yemen. In conclusion, I urge each delegate to engage with empathy and insight as we tackle these critical problems. Together, we can contribute to a future where diplomacy wins over discord and the voices of those affected by this conflict are heard loud and clear. Thank you.
Thank you, Dhruvin. Now, let's welcome the co-chair of the United Nations General Assembly, 𝗔𝗕𝗢𝗧.
Good morning, esteemed dignitaries, respected secretariat, and distinguished delegates. I am 𝗔𝗕𝗧, the Deputy Chair for the United Nations General Assembly for the Good Shepherd Model United Nations 2024, with the committee being chaired by Irene. The United Nations General Assembly is the largest organ and is one of the 6 principal organs of the United Nations. It is the only body in which every member of the United Nations is represented. It is a platform for lofty declarations, vigorous debates on the world's most pressing issues, including poverty, security, and environmental degradation. The 60th President of the United Nations General Assembly, Jan Ellison, once said, and I quote, "Our work must remain open and transparent so that we hear the voices of all." With that spectacular quote in mind, the United Nations General Assembly at the Good Shepherd Model United Nations will be discussing the ethicality of the power hierarchy in the United Nations Security Council. At the core of our discussion is a glaring ethical issue: the veto power held by the powerful 5. This mechanism allows any nation to block decisions regardless of majority support from other member states. Since its inception, this power has been wielded extensively. For instance, Russia has exercised its veto over 120 times, while the United States has done so 82 times. This capacity to unilaterally obstruct resolutions and decisions made in almost complete unanimity raises profound questions about democratic principles and equality among nations. With that being said, this year in the United Nations General Assembly, we expect lively discussions, fruitful arguments, and intense debates through which we hope to conclude this long-standing debate on the ethicality of the power hierarchy in the United Nations Security Council. Thank you.
Thank you, Ved. Our next speaker is the co-chair of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, or ASEAN, 𝗔𝗕𝗢𝗧 Jain.
Honorable delegates, esteemed guests, and fellow co-chairs and chairs. As the Deputy Chair for the Southeast Asian Nations, it is a privilege to address you all today. As we gather here, united by our shared commitment to diplomacy, dialogue, and the pursuit of solutions to pressing global issues, I am reminded of the power our collective voices share. As Winston Churchill once said, "Courage is what it takes to stand up and speak. Courage is also what it takes to sit down and listen." Our agenda centers on a critical topic, discussing the implications of the conflicts in the South Asia region, with a special emphasis on the involvement of China and the One China policy. To begin, we will clarify what the One China policy entails. This policy asserts that there is only one sovereign state under the name of China, which has direct implications for Taiwan and other territories. Understanding the historical context and current geopolitical landscape surrounding this policy is essential, as it directly influences regional dynamics and our interactions within Southeast Asia. Next, we will examine the economic implications of the One China policy for Southeast Asian nations. China is a major trading partner for many of us, and this relationship brings both opportunities and challenges. We will discuss how this policy impacts our trade agreements, investment flows, and overall economic cooperation within the region. It is vital that we analyze how we can navigate our economic ties with China while ensuring sustainable growth and development for our own nations. Finally, we will address the security implications arising from the One China policy. The geopolitical tensions in the South China Sea and surrounding areas are of particular concern to all Asian member states. We will explore how these tensions affect regional stability and what measures we can take collectively to promote peace and security in our waters. Throughout our discussions today, I encourage each of you to share your perspectives and insights openly. Our goal is not necessarily to reach to a consensus on every issue, but rather to foster a deeper understanding of the complexities involved in the One China policy and its implications in Southeast Asia. I look forward to engaging with all of you as we navigate these important discussions together. Thank you for your participation and your commitment to advancing dialogue within Asia. Let's proceed with our agenda with an open and collaborative spirit. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Swetcha. Next is the co-chair of the Disarmament and International Security Committee, Irene Anna Shabu, who will deliver a truly insightful address.
Good morning to one and all present here. The Disarmament and International Security Committee, commonly referred to as DISEC, was established in 1945, making it the first of the UN's main committees, formed when the UN Charter was signed. This committee empowers the General Assembly to discuss principles of cooperation aimed at maintaining international peace and security. This includes addressing disarmament and regulating armaments, highlighting DISEC's crucial role in fostering global stability and security. As we embark on our discussion today, I am reminded of a humorous yet insightful remark by Winston Churchill, and I quote, "Diplomacy is the art of telling people to go to hell in such a way that they ask for directions." I unquote. While this quote may evoke a smile, it encapsulates our role here perfectly. Our task is to navigate the conflicting interests of nations, guiding them towards a consensus. Today, we explore a critical topic. Should mass deportation be considered an ethical solution in light of the violent attacks attributed to immigrants in the UK and other countries? This issue is increasingly pertinent as nations confront rising immigration concerns and their perceived ties to crime and security. For instance, ongoing riots in the Dominican Republic and Haiti are driven by the Dominican Republic's plan to deport up to 10,000 Haitian migrants weekly, amid escalating gang violence and humanitarian crises in Haiti. As societies become polarized over immigration, it's vital to assess the ramifications of mass deportation, not only for those directly impacted, but also for communities and economies. This discussion invites a thorough examination of the tension between public safety and human rights, enhancing our understanding of the complexities surrounding immigration policies in a globalized context. Delegates, I urge each one of you to approach this topic with an open mind and a commitment to constructive dialogue. Let us remember that our goal is not to win an argument, but to collaborate and find effective solutions to the challenges we face. Thank you, and I look forward to a fruitful discussion.
Thank you, Irene. Now, the co-chair of the Economic and Financial Affairs Council, Ayona Jwal, is ready to present us with a $1 million speech.
Good morning, everyone. I am Ayona Jwal, the Deputy Chair of the ECOFIN Committee. It is my honor to lead our discussions on essential economic and financial issues that profoundly affect our global community. The Economic and Financial Committee, also known as the ECOFIN Committee, founded in 1948, plays a crucial role in shaping economic policy across the European Union, focusing on taxation, financial services, and economic relations with the non-EU countries. Our discussions today will not only address pressing economic challenges, but also aim to foster collaboration and understanding among the member states. To set the tone for our deliberations, I would reflect on the timeless words of Adam Smith. I quote, "It is not from the benevolence of the butcher, the brewer, or the baker that we expect our dinner, but from their regard for their own interest." I unquote. This profound insight underscores the fundamental principles that govern market behavior and highlights the importance of self-interest in driving economic activity. Now, let us turn our attention to our first agenda, analyzing the risks of and determining strategies to mitigate the risks of de-dollarization. Our initial discussions will focus on the risks associated with de-dollarization. This transition poses risks such as increased volatility and exchange rates, and the potential isolation of economies that heavily rely on the dollar. To mitigate these risks, we should consider strategies that promote diversified currency reserves and enhance regional trade agreements. Our second agenda, scrutinizing the impact of volmatization on national and local economies, with a special emphasis on the impact it has on the general working population. In this regard, we will examine the phenomena of volmatization, the trend of large retailers dominating local markets. While these retail giants can lower prices for consumers, they often lead to job losses in smaller businesses and wage suppression for workers. Understanding this impact is essential as we strive to balance consumer benefits with the welfare of our broader working population. As we engage in these discussions, I urge you all to remember that the Good Shepherd Model United Nations is not merely about debating or winning. It is a unique opportunity for learning and growth. I encourage all the delegates to actively participate in our deliberations. Together, we can forge pathways towards sustainable solutions that address the challenges of de-dollarization and volmatization while promoting economic equity and stability. Let us seize this opportunity to collaborate, innovate, and drive meaningful transformations together. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ayona. We now have the Deputy Speaker of Lok Sabha, Akshita Singhania.
Honorable Chair, esteemed delegates, and distinguished guests. As cohort of Lok Sabha for the GSMUN 2024, it is my privilege to welcome you all to our discussion on the agenda, the replacement of the Indian Penal Code, the IPC, with the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, the BNS. This is not merely a legislative change, but it is a fundamental shift in our approach to justice in India. Before delving into the specifics of the agenda, it's essential to understand the context within which this discussion is taking place. The Lok Sabha, the lower house of India's parliament. The Lok Sabha is composed of representatives directly elected by the citizens of India through universal adult suffrage. This house plays a pivotal role in shaping national policies, enacting laws, and representing the diverse interests of Indian populace. The Indian Penal Code, established by the British government in 1860, serves as a foundational element of India's legal system, defining offences and establishing punishments applicable to all Indian citizens. Over the years, it has faced criticisms for being outdated and not fully reflective of contemporary societal values. So concerns have been raised regarding gender bias in certain definitions and procedural inefficiencies, prompting calls for reforms to better align the IPC with modern principles of justice and equality. Now, turning to the BNS, it was introduced in August 2023 with the objective of reforming and modernizing the criminal justice system in India. While the BNS aims to modernize Indian criminal system, it faces substantial criticism regarding its potential impact on civil liberties, clarity in legal definitions, and protection for marginalized groups. As we move forward with discussions on this agenda, it is imperative that we approach this transition thoughtfully. The goal should be to create a legal framework that not only reflects the modern values, but also upholds justice and equality for all citizens. Engaging in constructive dialogue will be essential in refining these proposals and ensuring that they serve the best interests of our society. The committee's work will play a vital role in shaping the future of criminal law in India, and I look forward to our deliberations on this important matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Akshita. Next in line is the co-chair of the United Nations Office of Drugs and Crime, Hina Kanagar.
Good morning to all esteemed guests, honorable members of the Secretariat, and dear delegates. As we embark on this year's GSMUN, I, Hina Kanagar, am honored to welcome you to the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime. Under the leadership of our head, Nilgiris, I will be serving as the co-head. Together, we will dive into one of the most pressing issues of our time, the global opioid crisis. Established in 1997, UNODC plays a pivotal role in combating illicit drugs, transnational organized crime, and terrorism. The agency promotes international cooperation and effective responses through research, policy development, and technical assistance. This year, we will examine strategies to tackle the opioid epidemic threatening communities worldwide. We are looking for comprehensive solutions that balance public health and law enforcement. The global opioid crisis is severe, driven by the misuse of opioids like morphine and fentanyl. Morphine is widely used for pain management, but carries risks of independence. Fentanyl, on the other hand, a synthetic opioid that is 50 to 100 times more potent than morphine, has become a leading cause of overdose deaths due to prevalence in illicit markets. Addressing this crisis requires effective prevention and treatment strategies. Now, I encourage each of you to engage deeply in our debates. This is your chance, not just to represent your assigned countries, but to advocate for innovative solutions that can lead to real change. Your voices matter, so let's make sure they are heard. Remember, the strength of a committee lies in the ability to collaborate and think critically about these complex issues. As we navigate this important topic together, let us uphold the spirit of diplomacy and respect for one another's viewpoints. I look forward to witnessing your commitment to fostering meaningful dialogue and developing actionable resolutions. The gavel awaits and the world watches. Let the debates commence. Thank you.
Thank you, Hirav. Moving on to our final UN committee, we present to you the co-chair of the United Nations Women, Kabir Bimal Patel.
Good morning, respected delegates, esteemed guests, and fellow participants. It is my pleasure to welcome you to the opening ceremony of this year's Model United Nations as the co-chair of the United Nations Women's Committee. The primary agenda for UNW will be reaffirming the right to safe and legal access to reproductive healthcare services for all women globally, with a focus on the implication of the Roe versus Wade case. The Roe versus Wade case symbolizes a crucial fight for reproductive rights, highlighting the significance of women's control over their health and their access to safe healthcare services. This issue has increasingly become relevant as discussions about reproductive rights continue to evolve across the globe. The second agenda for the day is enhancing women's articulation in conflict resolution and peace-building processes, addressing the shortcomings of UNSC Resolution 1325 and barriers to its implementation. UNSCR 1325 is a landmark resolution from the United Nations Security Council that acknowledges the essential role women play in peace processes and conflict resolution. It advocates for greater inclusion of women in all levels of decision-making related to peace and security, and stresses the importance of protecting women and girls from violence during conflicts. Delegates, I encourage you to participate actively and respectfully in our discussions. Your comprehensive research will be crucial as we delve into these complex issues. Understanding the variation of topics like the Roe versus Wade case and the United Nations Security Council Resolution 1325, it requires a responsibility to learn and an openness to different perspectives. I urge you to express your points of view strongly and confidently, while also being respectful to the insights of your fellow delegates. Let's work towards innovative solutions and resolutions that advance gender equality and uphold human rights. Let's focus on having productive conversations during this meeting in order to comprehend different points of view and encourage collaboration. Together, we can strive for resolutions that not only tackle these urgent matters, but also empower women worldwide. Thank you for your dedication to these significant discussions. I'm eager to witness a productive and an inspiring session as we embark on this journey together. Thank you.
Thank you, Kabir. Last but most definitely not the least, we have Bashini Balas to help us understand the importance of press team.
Good morning to one and all present here. My name is Vibhashini, and I'm honored to stand before you all representing the press team of Good Shepherd Model United Nations 2024. The press team, comprising Celine Shabu, Vidhi Dhayal, Manav Patel, Arush Nahata, and myself hope to immerse ourselves in GSMUN news coverage. We aim to capture the transformation each one has gone through from being a student to an MUN delegate. The press team's goal is to record and conserve all the innovative ideas and effective debate that will arise throughout this event. Over the next 3 days, we hope to focus on incorporating unheard opinions and capturing fruitful discussions while upholding journalistic ethics. We aim to continue to preserve our MUN days by creating this year's GSMUN newsletter. I am thrilled to announce the release of the monthly roundup. This publication, spanning 4 issues, will include detailed write-ups on committee proceedings, overview on the evening crisis, moot court, social night, as well as plenty of insights we collect from our delegates and chairs. Delegates, we hope that you will participate in this event with the same enthusiasm and excitement which we observed in your rigorous preparation. It is our privilege to write about your achievements, your hard work, and your diligence throughout the event. The press team shall spotlight your milestones and etch it in print. We look forward to sharing these stories with you and celebrating the immense effort and dedication that everyone has put into making GSMUN 2024 a memorable experience. Thank you.
Thank you, Vibhashini. We would now like you to relax and enjoy the music of our variety band as we prepare for the exciting discussions that lie ahead.
Careless whispers of a good friend to the heart and mind. Ignorance is kind. There's no comfort in the truth. Pain is all you find.
Next, we have a short humorous skit by Prisha, Hia, Sanchita, Vivek, and Sharika.
Knock, knock. Knock, knock. Knock, knock. Come on, bro. Knock, knock.
Hello, can I help you?
Hello, no good, sir. But I am surely to be a grantee's assistance to you.
Are you speaking a foreign language? We don't understand foreigners here.
No, sir. I am offering you an opportunity for eloquence simply by listening to my diatribe and partaking in this remedy for melody that has plagued mankind forever.
He's got the fever! He's got the fever!
Open the door.
No way, you're infected.
Open the door. I'm not.
No way, you've got the fever.
I have not. May I come in, please?
Are you sure?
I'm sure. I'm clean. May I come in?
Then why are you speaking like that?
I am trying to sell you a book.
A book?
Yes, a book. My name is Dictionary, and I have here a book of words.
Oh, story.
No, no story.
But it has words.
Yes, all the words and all their meanings.
Sammy, someone is trying to sell us a book here.
A book? What's the story?
There is no story.
Well, does it have words in it?
Yes, all the words and all their meanings.
What's the plot then?
There is no plot.
A story with no plot?
There is no story.
A story? I love a story. Read it to me. There is no story. But you got a book.
Yes, a book with all the words and all their meanings.
A book with words but no story?
Exactly, exactly.
What good is the book then?
Haha, it's a book you can look at words you don't know in.
If I don't know it, how will I look it up?
Suppose you were having a conversation with someone. Suppose that person used the word you didn't know, such as assistance.
I don't know what that means.
Exactly. Just look in my book.
How?
All the words in my book are rounded up alphabetically.
What's an alphabet?
An alphabet is a series of letters.
Letters?
Yeah, letters such as A, S, T, R, or Q.
I've heard of that.
You have?
Yeah.
So, you simply go to the section of the book with the A words and find assistance.
But what's that mean?
Help.
This is your book. How are we supposed to help?
Assistance means help.
Then why can't you just say help?
I understand help.
Maybe you should go to the doctor and get help. Slay.
Okay. Let's try this. Suppose you want to write a letter.
But I don't know how to write.
Suppose you could write and you wanted to write about your sick aunt.
But none of my aunts are sick.
Maybe Aunt Tilly is sick.
Aunt Tilly is sick. Is she going to be alright?
Wait. No one's actually sick. Suppose Aunt Tilly was sick. And suppose you knew how to write. Then you could write to your relatives about your sick aunt.
But all of my relatives are right here.
You can walk to the house in just a few minutes.
Suppose your relatives lived in Ireland. Suppose Aunt Tilly was sick. Suppose you could write. Then you could write a letter to your relatives living in Ireland about your sick aunt.
But none of my relatives know how to read.
Suppose they could read. Then they would want to read about your sick aunt.
I thought you said Aunt Tilly wasn't sick.
She's not.
Wait. Let me get this straight. Suppose my relatives can/could read. Suppose my relatives lived in Ireland. I wish they don't. Or which? They don't. Suppose my aunt was sick, which she is not. Suppose we had a mailing system, which we do not. And suppose I could write, which I cannot. Then your book would be useful.
Exactly. Let's try this. Suppose you want to write a letter to the Duke.
But why would the Duke care if my aunt is sick?
He wouldn't, obviously. But suppose you were unhappy with your taxes.
Taxes? I am not happy with my taxes.
Exactly. You should write a letter to the Duke, expressing your plight, your troubles.
And that would help?
Sure it would.
Then I'm going to write him a Q.
Very well. You're gonna write the Duke a what?
A Q.
Me too. Can I write him a Q too?
No, you cannot send a Q to the Duke.
That's discrimination. A man can send him a Q, but a woman can't.
No, nobody can send a Q to the Duke.
How about a T then?
A T is good, but I do like a Q.
No T.
Well, how about an S?
Yes, that's good.
Okay, wait. You can't send a letter to the Duke.
But you just asked us to send him a letter.
I meant a letter, not letter. I meant a letter, not letter. A Q. How would the Duke know what all three of you meant by a Q?
Maybe you should sell him your book then.
What even?
Knock, knock. Knock, knock.
Oh, this door. Dad, we should get a new door.
Hey, I'm here to sell a revolutionary new floor leveling system.
What is it?
It's a bag of dirt. You just have to put it on the floor and level it out. That sounds great. We'll take one.
Wait. All of you wait. He is selling you a bag of dirt. I'm selling you books and words and dictionaries and their meaning, and you want to buy the bag. I will not calm down. Do not ask me to calm down.
Calm down, we'll buy your book.
You'll buy my book?
We'll buy your book.
Actually?
Yes.
My book?
Yes. How much?
Only 10 pounds.
No, less.
Can't go lesser.
Go less?
Can't go.
You can. Try. Less.
You know what? For you, 5 pounds.
Okay.
5 pounds. Finally, one dictionary sold for 5 pounds. Keep it. I did it. I can't believe I did it. Yes.
That was really an amazing performance. Prisha and her team indeed made us think and set the tone for today's MUN. I would now like to call upon our Deputy Secretary General, 𝗔𝗕𝗡𝗡𝗟, to invite the chief guest for an address.
A very good afternoon to the President, Mr. Jacob Thomas, Vice President, Student and Staff Welfare, Mrs. Sarah Jacob, staff, and all aspiring delegates present here today. It is my distinct pleasure to welcome our chief guest for this special event here. Today, we have with us a remarkable individual whose contributions to his field have been nothing short of exceptional. I am delighted to introduce Dr. Johann Christopher, a highly respected consultant cardiologist based in Mushribad, Hyderabad. With 16 years of extensive experience, Dr. Christopher has established himself as one of the leading cardiologists in the region. He completed his MBBS and MD in internal medicine from Christian Medical College, Ludhiana, followed by a DNB in cardiology from the Care Institute of Medical Sciences, Hyderabad. His pursuit of excellence led him to prestigious fellowships in cardiac imaging at both Brigham and Women's Hospital, Harvard Medical School, and George Washington University in the USA. Throughout his career, Dr. Christopher has held various significant positions, including roles as a consultant cardiologist and director of cardiac imaging at Care Hospitals. His dedication to patient care and medical education is further exemplified by his involvement as an executive member in the Asian Society of Cardiac Imaging.
Dr. Christopher is not only recognized for his clinical expertise, but also for his numerous national and international publications in cardiac imaging, which have contributed greatly to our understanding of heart health. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Johann Christopher to the stage as he shares his insights and experiences with us today. Can we have a round of applause, please?
Respected President GSIS, Jacob Thomas, respected Vice President Sarah Jacob, respected faculty, GSIS, students of GSIS, and all the friendly schools that have come for the GSMUN. It's a great honor and privilege for me to stand before you. I am from the batch of 1989, and it's just wonderful to be here in front of all of you. And on this occasion, I'll be talking a little bit about the role the United Nations has to play in terms of health and also some of the more precipitants in health that are going to affect us in the next decade. So, of all the achievements that I've had, I think one of the most important thing is being an alumni of my alma mater, GSIS. And the training that we received here has been invaluable. And I feel so privileged that I see all of you in this excellent auditorium with your distinguished faculty. And I'm sure the training that you're going to get here is going to help you throughout life, not only to have illustrious careers, but also be a change, a social change. So there is a statement that is going around in health sectors that 20s is the new 40s and 30s is the new 70s. Cardiovascular disease today is the #1 killer, not road traffic accidents and definitely not COVID. And if you look at the numbers, 17 million per year, and the unfortunate thing is 82% in the developing world, which is already resource constrained, and things are going to get worse. Among cardiovascular diseases, heart disease is the #1 killer for Indians. And most importantly, women are also at high risk the moment they cross the menopause. What is important is that most of this is going to happen before the age of 50. And all of you sitting in this auditorium are also vulnerable. Now, if you look at the risk of mortality or the risk of a cardiovascular event, it's 7% for those of you who have risk factors, diabetes, hypertension. But just in case you develop heart failure, which is the end result of all heart diseases put together, the risk actually starts at about 30% and goes on to 50%. That means a mortality of 50% in a calendar year, which is a big number. And to just set the tone right in this GSMUN, we want to look at the United Nations and the role it has played. And these are some of the timelines that have happened. And if you can look at this, the WHO is one of the first agencies that actually came into existence in 1948, followed by the others, UNCF, UNDP, and GHI. And we'll just look at some of the important formulations that the WHO and United Nations have done. Now, when we look at health, we are not looking at the absence of disease, but we are looking at physical, mental, and spiritual well-being. And I think that is one of the key things I have learned and you all are experiencing at GSIS. So if you look at all diseases together, the focus today is on non-communicable diseases, simply because 70% of all deaths are from these groups. And what are these diseases? Cancer, cardiovascular disease, chronic respiratory diseases, and diabetes. These are the big four. And what is driving them is even more important. Unhealthy eating, excess alcohol, physical inactivity, and tobacco use. Now, if you look at the 2002 causes of death, you will see that the big three, stroke, coronary artery disease, and cancer, contribute 1/3. And the problem with this is not only the death it causes, but the disability and loss of man hours at the workplace. So let's just see how the United Nations has contributed to this through a 7-action plan. And the first thing is the Global Action Plan for the Prevention and Control of NCDs. And through the WHO, they have looked at 3 key parameters. One is the risk factors reduction, improving access to health care, and also strengthening health systems to combat the NCD burden. Number 3 is sustainable development of goals. And here we're looking at decreasing mortality, which is the important thing, and also achieving universal health coverage, not for the privileged few, but for the entire community. Number 4 is having a World Heart Day, and it's something that we all celebrated at our hospitals on the September 29th of every year, where we raise awareness about heart health, we talk about healthier lifestyle, and we look at ways to decrease the global burden of cardiovascular diseases, right from schools, colleges, homes, and in parks. Number 5 is the collaboration with global partners. You can see that the WHO, the UNICEF, and the United Nations Development Program all get together and look at ways to decrease NCDs and decrease the morbidity and the mortality. The Global Heart Initiative is number 6, and we're looking at about 6 modules that we give to communities and countries to improve their cardiovascular health through evidence-based interventions. And the most important thing is to make it universal and make it cost-effective. Number 7 is monitoring and reporting, which I think is a very important thing for any program. And the Global NCD program looks at reducing salt intake, promoting physical activity, and enhancing healthcare services. Now, if you look at American College, and that's the college many of us belong to, we have a very special recommendation for managing young patients with heart disease defined as less than 45. Now, I'm just going to take you over to some of the risk factors, and the first one is tobacco. And the numbers are on the screen, I'm not going to repeat it, but what is important is that 22% of school children are consuming tobacco. Any form of tobacco, smoking, vaping, chewing, is dangerous. It causes cancer and it causes heart disease. It's important to know that the quantity of tobacco has an impact on cancer, but it has no linear correlation with heart disease, which can happen even with a very small ingestion. The second big problem is hypertension, and it seems to contribute a large number of global deaths. And if you look at hypertension, we are reaching about 1 billion, and there is data to show that almost 1 in 4 Indians above the age of 18 have hypertension. Now look at the data here, 33%, and you know that data in our country is always good because we don't have an effective method of collecting data. The awareness is there, but the treatment is low. And what is even worse is that only 20% of our urban population is under control. That means is on drugs and reaching goals. And the matters are worse in the rural, only 10%. And if you look at the morbidity and mortality, you will see that half of the deaths are simply because of high blood pressure, something very easy to measure, very easy to treat. And if you look at the morbidity, you will see that children are also affected. And this is data from Delhi, data from Maharashtra. And the problem with hypertension is the consequences, stroke and heart attack, the morbidity and mortality. The third important risk factor is obesity. And there is now data from the United States that the life expectancy has already started coming down because of the increased levels of obesity. And obesity is a big driver, a driver for high blood pressure, a driver for diabetes, and a driver for cardiovascular disease. In fact, people are now calling obesity as the single largest driver. And one of the drugs for obesity that we have started using has one of the highest global sales ever for a pharmaceutical product in the Western world. And we look at the definition, which comes as a cluster, and we call it the metabolic syndrome. The big 4 are diabetes, abdominal obesity, not generalized obesity, high cholesterol, and high blood pressure. And this is very important in the Indian context where we call it the small or thin fat hypothesis, wherein our BMIs are normal, but our abdominal waistline is high. And you can clearly see that as your waistline increases, the chance of you developing NCDs like diabetes and hypertension is high. Now, when you look at the definition, these are numbers, and these are numbers that we want you to know. And this is what happened. Over the last decades, when we got independence, we had a calorific crisis in this country, and that led to the green and white revolution. But unfortunately, the revolution went so far that in 2024, almost 1/3 or 1/4 of Indians above the age of 40 are now obese. And the important thing here is not general obesity, but is the waistline. And this is not only for adults. Now there is an obesity pandemic in children as well. Coming to diabetes, the moment we make a diagnosis of diabetes, we're looking at a length of almost 8 years being lost for men and women, because diabetes is again a very big problem fueling cardiovascular diseases. And diabetes, and India is the diabetes capital, and Hyderabad, where I come from, is called the national capital of diabetes of the world. Now, this is, I think, something pertaining to all of us in this auditorium, and physical inactivity is one of the drivers for NCDs. And I'm sure this is something that all of you do. We do it, but this is something that is fueling this problem. And when we look at data coming from various parts of India, and this is Mumbai data, we see that almost 33% of children in Mumbai are obese and they have very low fitness levels. And if you look at internationally, Indians among the laziest in the world. The walking is much less compared to the Americans or the Chinese for that matter. And if you look at this data, and this is data from Dr. Gupta's data from Rajasthan and Jaipur, you will see that these are some of the big issues that we have. The high-fat diet, high-salt diet, eating out frequently, and most important, 6% only do regular physical exercise. And well, we are all aware of the problem of tobacco, and I talked to you about that data. Unfortunately, sitting is the new smoking. And the more you sit, that's going to fuel an NCD. And it's not good enough to do a burst of activity for 1 hour or 15 minutes after sitting the whole day. That's not going to help. Sitting is a new smoking, and it's very important that we move in our workplace. So I believe that we need to stand up, we need to move, otherwise all of us are going to be a sitting duck. The first thing is to get our numbers right. We need to know our blood pressure, our cholesterol, our sugars, our weight, and our BMI. And these are the 10 numbers on the screen. I would encourage you to take a little picture or remember these. We'll leave some of these slides with you. You need to know them because they are the drivers for non-communicable diseases, and they are the drivers for early mortality and morbidity. When we look at blood pressure, we have been traditionally taught about 140/90, but right now we have data from the American College that the disease starts at 120 itself. We call it elevated blood pressure. So we are doing a lot of screening, especially on those children who are going to university, reaching university. The problem starts there, not at 40. It's very easy to check the blood pressure, very easy to measure. The second important thing I wanted to focus today is the diet. And this is a representation of how our diet should be. And this is a traditional plate that I have sort of depicted, where 50% has to be fruits, non-starchy vegetables, 25% protein, and only 25% carbs. But what we all generally consume is 50% carbs, especially the white rice. And that seems to be fueling this metabolic problem. And this is an example of how whole grains are entering our market today, and these are what is going to be healthy for us in future. Now, we need to make those choices. We need to make those healthy choices. And this is a classical choice where we would like to avoid that rice and have a mixed menu of whole grain, whole fruit in our meals. And I think this is something that has to start in school. And I'm really glad that there is a lot of drive at GSIS to make sure you guys get wholesome meals at the right time. I am non-vegetarian, but some of these things, if they are consumed in large amounts, become very unhealthy. And it's important that we have a mixed diet, and these are some of the nutrients that we need to make sure we are taking on a daily basis in order to prevent this. And we have some data from the Chennai group where they found that when you replace white rice with millets, and India is going to be the largest producer of millets in the next 1 or 2 years, you're going to have a significant reduction in weight, gastric problems, and more important, cardiovascular disease. While bananas are great for sugar, and most of you who are in athletics and sports would like to take it, we have to remember that it contains a lot of sugar. So we need to be careful of what we consume. But pomegranates, for example, also have sugar, but then they have a lot of nutrients as well. We call it antioxidants, which actually reverse heart disease. So the important theme is to get fruity, to get negative calorific value from foods. Actually, these foods go in and burn calories because they take a lot of energy to get digested and actually reduce your weight. The other important thing we wanted to stress today is salt. And this is the salt that we take. Some of us may not add salt to the food, but we are certainly adding a lot of these substances. And salt is the biggest driver for hypertension. And there are a lot of campaigns where we find that the Western world consumes about 5 grams of salt a day, but in India we are touching 10, 11 grams. And salt is the biggest driver of hypertension. And I just want to quote this from one of our senior vice presidents, that I tell my patients to beware of the 3 whites, maida, rice, and sugar. If you can control the intake of these 3, a lot of lifestyle health problems are going to be corrected. Talking about alcohol, and I know that alcohol is something that is very pervasive in the industry, but alcohol is a metabolic poison and we need to be very careful. The other issue that I wanted to stress upon, and this is something we're seeing in the younger population, is ADHD. And the numbers are astounding. 10% of children and about 3 to 4% of adults. Impulsivity, hyperactivity, inattention. These are symptoms which we now find are fueling cardiovascular disease because the medications that is used to treat them is also causing cardiovascular events. So we have been talking to psychiatrists, psychologists to be careful when you're dealing with this disease, especially with children, and use some natural therapy, vitamins, and counseling rather than medication. But what is important, we find, is that the same inflammation which is driving coronary artery disease is also driving ADHD. And we find that that is the single biggest driver for both the diseases. And this is the kind of cycle that we are seeing, that anxiety, inflammation, and stress, they fuel ADHD. And these are symptoms that you will see in your roommate, in your classmate. And ADHD, in turn, is making these people more prone to cardiovascular disease. And if you look at some of the non-traditional forms of treatment, like exercise, you will clearly see that all the parameters of ADHD improve if you have a good lifestyle and good exercise, rather than medication. Not by accident, but design. And I think this is really something that we try to get our children into good places, because staying healthy doesn't happen by accident. It happens by design. It happens by good mentors, by good schools, by good programs, by good physical activities. And starting early is going to get you on the right track. Now, we do a lot of imaging at our Center for Heart Disease, and we are able to pick up very, very early disease with some of the new technologies like CT and nuclear scanning. And again, we have good medications which are now actually reversing plaque. We are reversing diabetes. We are reversing cholesterol. And we have some fantastic tools in the cath lab that we do where we treat lesions, especially when people come in acute situations. And obviously, we have surgeries. But the truth of the matter is the disease burden is large. And most of these therapies are not going to help us. It has to start early. And it's very unfortunate that possibly this is the first generation where the children are going to die early. We are not exempted from this epidemic. In fact, white coats are in big danger. And again, this is data from Chennai, where they found that dietary patterns among doctors, stress levels among doctors are among the highest, and 50% of them are at risk for cardiovascular diseases. So for people like you who are going to look at medicine as a career option, and I'm going to be talking to some of you today evening, we want to look at you having physical activity as a very important part of your syllabus, because that's going to take you to make you a healthy doctor and, more importantly, a role model for your patient. From non-vegetarianism to vegetarian, from terrorism to philanthropy, you've seen that in the UNMN today, from violence to peace, indiscipline to discipline, restlessness to compassion, ignorance to knowledge, cruelty to humanity, and alcohol to non-alcohol. I think we need to make this change, and I believe one of the biggest instruments for change, I agree with all the speakers today morning, is the United Nations. And I'm just going to quote the Secretary General before I conclude. We at the United Nations will never give up in our quest for a more peaceful and just world, and I know you won't either. The United Nations is proud to be your ally, and we count on you to be a force for positive change, now and in the future. I wish you all success. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. We will now be having a short question and answer session with Dr. Christopher.
Thank you for your insightful words, sir. Any questions in the crowd? Yes.
Good afternoon. I'm Arush. And how can we make sure that the people who are under the poverty line get heart care which they need?
Yeah, very good question. As I did mention, today heart diseases, which were the exclusive privilege of the elite, maybe 2 decades ago, is now rampant among economically disadvantaged people. We are seeing this now, and it's in front of us. Now the government is doing a lot of work. The United Nations is doing a lot of work. We've talked about what is happening in Gaza. And while the immediate problems are obviously infectious diseases, but the longer and more sinister problem is non-communicable diseases, because we are now having access to a lot of calorific rich diet at a very low price. McDonald's and all these things are a classic example. So there is an attempt by the medical fraternity, the government, the pharma industry, to get the prices of essential drugs really low. There is an attempt to make sure that we are screening a lot of these people in economically disadvantaged positions, but we are falling tremendously short. The burden is large. We do try from the private sector, but it's a small drop in the ocean. So very pertinent point, large burden of disease, economically disadvantaged people, how to reach out for them, the jury is still out there, but we are trying.
All right, thank you for the answer, sir. Next, we have a question from the head of the WHO.
Hi, sir. I have 2 questions for you. My first question would be, looking at it from a student's perspective, right? You said that we have to stand more, but considering that we're in our classes for 6 hours continuously sitting, even with study sessions after school, right, which lasts about 4 to 5 hours. Let's just take it as 12 hours of sitting, and then let's say 8 hours of sleep. That's just 20 hours of being stationary and not on our feet. So how would you suggest that we get moving more?
Yes, good question. When I was at GSIS many years ago, every time the teacher went out, we would run out. And every time the teacher came in, we would stand. Then we would sit. And when we were asked a question, we would stand and then sit. That's physical exercise. So for those of you who like sitting and answering, well, you're going to get heart disease early. We never had that problem because we always stood.
So my second question to you would be, as you know, WHO this time is focusing on rehabilitating the health recovery systems, right? If you could share some thoughts on the agenda, it would be great for our delegates as well.
the role of WHO in rehabilitation.
Yeah, our agenda is rehabilitating health systems in conflicted affected zones.
Yeah, so the WHO gives a lot of direction. The WHO is a premier international body, and we have regional offices. Our regional office is in New Delhi. In fact, one of my classmates from my MBBS batch is a WHO member. So periodically, maybe every 6 months to a year, the WHO comes out with data about the problem and also comes out with specific solutions for differing countries, regional specific solutions. And that comes down to the Indian Association, both of IMA, the Cardiology Society of India, for example, and then we allow it to percolate down to the local level, Hyderabad city chapter or a small chapter within Hyderabad. So the WHO directions are very important. Many of us in the senior position also contribute as far as data, as far as the regional problems that we are facing to the WHO offices. And the WHO also does disperse funds. So if I'm doing a project, for example, for urban diabetes, surveillance, the WHO is helping me do that. And it takes that data and uses that data, for example, from the Western world and shows me where I am behind or where there is a lag, and essentially gives a lot of direction, but it is not binding for the local bodies to adopt it. But for most of us, when we talk to our patients, the WHO directives, as you've seen, are actually behind the statements that we make, whether we're talking about salt. I gave you the salt data for India, for example, 10 to 11 grams. That comes from the WHO data. But again, in a country like ours with 1.5 billion, it becomes very difficult for us to implement all the WHO protocols in most places. But it is the first step. It's a great step because in the WHO, we also get access to what's the best in the business, what's happening in New Zealand, Canada, United States, for example, and that gets percolated down to the local level. So the Indian government also in the Ministry of Family Welfare and Health takes a lot of its direction when they're formulating policy, whether it is about polio, whether it's about influenza, from the WHO document. So the WHO document is important. It serves as an important health constitution, not something that has to be followed, but it serves as a guideline.
Right. Thank you for that answer, sir. We will now have a concluding question from our guests, the Cottonians.
Good afternoon, sir. Very informative presentation. Now, I looked at the presentation that you had given, and the WHO had mentioned a recommended amount of the doctor to population ratio is 1:1,000, but in India it's 0.702 to a million. Now, keeping in mind our nation is the largest population in the world, as well as that both government and private institutions have a limited number of seats for medicine every year, how can we increase that ratio for the doctors?
Yeah, if you look at the Pradhan Mantri's plan for the next 5 years, if I'm not mistaken, they are going to add about 750 medical colleges in the next 5 years. That's a big number. And remember, the average intake is going to be about 100. So it's 7,500 seats that are going to be added straight away, apparently from 2025. This is the directive the Pradhan Mantri has given us this year. So that is a step in the right direction. But on the contrary, I just did hear one of the member of parliament, actually he was a cardiologist from Karnataka, Bangalore, who said by 2030, there is going to be a shortage of jobs for doctors. So this is a kind of thing that has been playing because unfortunately most of the doctors, physicians move to the urban environment due to various reasons. And there is a huge shortfall in the rural. So while in the urban environment, and most of you come from cities, you will see that there are roads where there are about 5 doctors in a half-kilometer stretch. But when you go into the rural, and these are some of the places I have been working in, after MBBS, there's no doctor for about 100 kilometers, especially in the eastern part of our country. So this is a big anomaly. So this is not just numbers, but it is a kind of a anomaly in the distribution of the doctor and nurse population. Certainly, I agree with you, and that's the reason why, as a special act of Parliament, about a decade ago, the Parliament passed a rule to combat NCDs. They have started a whole new career path for MBBS students called the Diploma for Post-Graduation in Cardiology, where you would pick up this 2-year degree immediately after MBBS, and I was one of the first proponents and teachers of this program, where we were picking up MBBS students, teaching them basic preventive cardiology, just to stem this huge epidemic of NCD. So that is a step in the right direction, but as I said, it's a large country, there's resource constraint, large population, so some of these things are just a drop in the ocean, but I think it is very important that we keep trying.
Thank you, sir. I think with initiatives like this, we'll definitely move ahead. Thank you.
All right, so thank you for patiently answering those questions in such in great depth. Can we all have a round of applause for our chief guest, please?
Thank you very much, GSIS family. Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir. That was a truly enlightening session. We would like you to accept a token of appreciation from us. Now I invite Prisha Agrawal to express our collective gratitude for all the sessions we engaged in to make this day a reality.
Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed guests and delegates, as we gather here today to kickstart this Model United Nations Conference, I would like to take a moment to express our heartfelt gratitude to those who have made this event possible. First and foremost, a warm thank you to our esteemed chief guest, Dr. Johann Christopher, from the batch of 1989 Good Shepherd. Your presence here today inspires all of us and underscores the importance of dialogue and collaboration in addressing pressing issues. We are truly honored to have you with us. I would also like to extend our appreciation to all the school representatives here. Your participation enriches our discussions and fosters a spirit of cooperation among young leaders. Thank you for being a part of this journey with us. A special thank you goes to our dedicated campus managers, Shashi sir and Jackson sir, and all the Chechis and Annas who have worked tirelessly behind the scenes with us from the very beginning. Your efforts in setting up the venue and ensuring everything runs smoothly have not gone unnoticed. We are truly grateful for your commitment and hard work. I also want to acknowledge our co-heads for their inspiring opening speeches. Your words set the tone for what promises to be an engaging and thought-provoking conference, letting all know why and how your respective committees work towards bringing global change. Finally, I would like to thank all the delegates for being present here today for their support and their enthusiasm. Let's make this MUN conference a memorable experience filled with learning, collaboration, new friendships, and thought-provoking debate. Thank you.
Thank you, Prisha, for your heartfelt words and for acknowledging the hard work and dedication of all contributors for bringing this ceremony to life.